Hey everybody, my name is Mal Foster and you are watching Cinema Loco. If you can believe it, it's been 20 years since the initial theatrical release of American Psycho. So, to mark the occasion, I thought I'd go back and rewatch it. Recently, I had a conversation about American Psycho, or more specifically, what I could actually remember about American Psycho, and honestly, all that came to mind was a grotesque selection box of certain images. The axe murder music critique, obviously, the chainsaw down the stairwell, and perhaps more disturbing than any of those things, the pathetic envy over business cards.
Look at this.
That is really nice.
Eggshell with Romalian type. What do you think?
Nice.
Granted, it's been several years since I last watched American Psycho, but my at best vague recollection did make me question the potency of the film. Was my memory of American Psycho so scattershot because the film is merely a showreel of jarring moments, or is there a degree of substance that my brain has somehow, some way omitted? After watching the film for a second time now, I think it's fair to say that the film sits somewhat frustratingly between the two. From the pop-tastic slaughter of Paul Allen to the giddy lunacy that leads to a police shootout complete with exploding cars, American Psycho is essentially a series of vivid and horrifying vignettes with almost no narrative tissue to connect the dots. Sure, there's the presence of Willem Dafoe's detective, but that subplot is half-cocked at best. The main thread of the film is skeletal and finds itself padded with ridiculous swagger and peppered with intensity. Much like Patrick Bateman himself, I guess. Speaking of, in regards to character development, American Psycho isn't exactly a gradual deconstruction. It's not a thought-provoking portrait of a tortured soul. It's more of a carnival ride that starts off insidious and then quickly nosedives into oblivion. But then maybe that's the point. By cutting out any sense of exploration or explanation or even layering to the character of Patrick Bateman, American Psycho plunges the audience straight into the obsession and pursuit of excess and greed that was rife in the 80s. Perhaps its shallow presentation is the perfect representation for the gluttony of the time period. A time period which, for all of its faults, the film really does get under the skin of. Whether it's in the meticulously designed vapid dialogue or even Bateman's venomous attitude towards people who are just like him, the film really does show some great satirical teeth and occasionally does sink them in at points. Maybe not as hard as it could or possibly should have, but it's definitely got a satirical snarl that it isn't afraid to show. This aspect of the film is great, as is some of the really menacing, visceral imagery on display. But outside of these factors, there really isn't that much to American Psycho.
Your compliment was sufficient, Lewis.
I have to admit, by the time the film reached its final third, I just felt like it had started to congeal into a bit of a repetitive mess. That wasn't until the ambiguous revelation at the end, which somehow I'd actually managed to completely forget about. Some people may find the twist to be somewhat of an anticlimax, but personally, I found it to be the film's saving grace. Had it ended cleanly without any doubt regarding the actions of the protagonist, then I kind of would have felt shortchanged by an unbelievable farce. But the suggestion that some, or perhaps all, of the on-screen carnage was merely the vision of a twisted imagination not only gives credence to the ridiculous shenanigans, but it adds the kind of character complexity that was missing throughout the rest of the film. If I'm being honest, I found American Psycho quite a frustrating watch. There are things in the film that I like, and ultimately it ties itself together nicely in the end, but really it's a film that squashes its potential. There are some truly memorable set pieces, and Christian Bale does take a deep dive into the character of Bateman, fleshing out his obsessive control and his unhinged ferocity with great results, but again, it just feels like there's so much more that could have been cultivated from the setting, the time period, and its established tone. It's a film that exudes potential, yet despite lacerating darkly comic and poignant properties, American Psycho never really quite manages to land the killing blow.